On Tuesday, September 25th, the Alexander Soil and Water Conservation Board of Supervisors and staff held an Alexander County Agri-Business Farm Tour for county officials and legislative representatives in conjunction with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service and Taylorsville, Carolina Farm Credit. Greenway Public Transportation provided transit for attendees to several local farm operations. First stop was Dragon W Farm, where Dale and Diane White and family operate 4 Tyson broiler houses. This farm family has installed innovative forced aeration composting technologies.
This was an experimental deal, which was a precast concrete. The bins are all precast concrete, and they were manufactured in South Carolina from Tandem Manufacturing. The way it works, if you're not familiar with it, it's all concrete. It has air that's funneled in from the bottom through channels. It drains to the back. It's all a sealed system. There's nothing goes into the ground anywhere. Any moisture or when the birds start to break down, it goes through a drain into a tank that's behind here that's filled with water and microbes. Those things are pumped back on top of it once you cap it, and then you force the air and moisture. That provides them a living environment, and they eat up the birds. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
The group then traveled to Hermann Dairy Farm, ran by Ned Kent and Rodney Hermann. This family-owned dairy operation is permitted for 600 Holsteins, along with the equivalent of 10 Tyson broiler houses. Approximately 31 acres of riparian farmland has been contributed towards wetland mitigation through the Federal Ecosystem Enhancement Program. An environmental consulting group, Restoration Systems, led by Mr. Worth Creech, completed the rejuvenation project in March of this year.
Primarily what we do is somebody messes something up somewhere, there are federal laws that you have to mitigate for that environmental loss, which will be streams and wetlands. Y'all may know a lot about this, some of you may not. But what our company does is matches up the people that need the mitigation, and we provide the mitigation, which comes in the form of credits. There's wetland credits, which are pretty much an acre for an acre. And there are different ratios, but we restore acres of wetlands. And with streams, it's a stream foot. So if you destroy a foot, you have to restore a foot. And this is all done within a water basin. So here we're in the 1201 River Basin, and then there's sub-basins of those. And this particular site was the state has a program, the Ecosystem Enhancement Program, which a lot of impactors in the DOT, they'll write a check to this program, they get a bunch of money, and they'll send out requests for proposals to companies like ours, and there are other companies as well. And we go out on our own dime and find landowners like the Hermanns who have pieces of land that the streams aren't in great shape. They have, agricultural practices. They've straightened them. There's cattle in them. Any number of reasons why they're impaired. And we have scientists that work for us who, they know how to look at a stream and decide if something's wrong with it or not. We also look at the soils that there are, and if it's a hydric soil and it's been drained and ditched, and it's probably used to be a wetland if it's a hydric soil, and now it's being farmed. So we'll go in and fill in ditches. A stream that may be 10 feet deep now, we'll take it back up to 3 feet, probably where it was, and put some sinuosity in, which we'll walk over there and we can look at it here in a second. But we'll go and find a little piece of land or a portion of a farm, or sometimes all of somebody's farm that has these characteristics, and we'll go and basically they agree with us to get under contract, and we'll put their land up and propose it to the state. And that's what we did out here. And we're up against other projects, other companies, other pieces of land, different locations. And it's the state usually picks the one that has the most environmental benefit and for the lowest price. So we work with the landowner, to get a price per acre, work on, the way the outline of the land's going to look. We basically took the valley down here and left them all as farmland up here. That's one thing we do. We also do private mitigation banking, and what I described before is more of a full delivery process where we take it from finding land to doing it for the government and all that. We also do private banking, which is we would go to the Hermanns and say, hey, we feel like there's a big enough need in this particular watershed that we want to basically get your land under contract, get our scientists and our team out there and decide what we could do with your land. And we go through, our company on our own dime and all that goes through the mitigation banking processes with the Corps of Engineers, and there's several other agencies, and basically propose, and if they find it acceptable, we'll do a mitigation bank where it's a private bank using private funds that hopefully we'll get those funds if we start selling credits over time. So that's basically two of the different ways we do stuff. If you want to go through here, I'll kind of show you what we did out here. On the first page, this kind of introduction. This is typical of what we do. Once we're finished with a project, we have to produce an as-built. And if you flip over on the back of that page, it'll give you an idea of why we did the work, the things we hope to restore, which is removing non-point sources of pollution, all the agricultural fertilizer and stuff that's adjacent to our easement. Now, that's one other thing is we do conservation easements. When we do this work, we have to put a permanent perpetual conservation easement on it. That's really the only way you can do this. They don't allow 5, 10, 30 years. You have to, it's perpetual because they want to, because basically you're offsetting a permanent impact, and they want a permanent solution for that impact. So everything we do in here, after we do all our work, we'll go in there and plant it with native trees, hardwood trees. If the landowner is a big hunter, we'll leave him the hunting rights so you continue to use it for hunting and fishing. And we'll plant species of trees and other things that say for instance deer like. We'll plant a lot of persimmon, a lot of mass-bearing trees. So we try to get rid of the pollution, the erosion that goes on with cattle and a lot of agricultural practices. We also, it's basically like a little wildlife sanctuary when we're done. Kent, he's told me he's seen a lot of ducks out here since we finished our work. We leave a lot of small, shallow pools throughout the project when we do wetlands, and you're free to put up duck boxes, wood duck boxes, stuff like that. Let's see. So the next that page kind of tells you what we did out here. On the third page, there's a little chart that tells you the different mitigation units that we did. By doing this project, this is what we sold the state, which is essentially 4,700 feet of stream, 4,780 feet of stream, 8.3 riparian wetland units. So we went from no wetlands out here to 8.3 wetlands. Riparian, which means it floods, it's a riparian wetland. And a non-riparian wetland, which are more upland kind of wetlands, it's seeps, natural little springs and stuff like that are more of a non-riparian wetland. Well, I guess if you go to almost the last page, I kind of stapled these wrong. There's a color picture, and you can see the UT means unnamed tributaries. These tributaries don't have official names, so we name them UTs. There's UT 1, 2, and 3. And down there's the Muddy Fork Creek, which is where all this part of the farm drains into. So basically, this is what it looked like out here when we first came out here. There was agricultural fields Well, we have one stream going down the center of our easement down there. There used to be two. There was one on each side of the field. At some point in time, those were moved, probably for the farming. To capture this water, get it out as fast as you could. Same on the other side. And then, kind of to the south and the east, there were some more very large. They looked like ditches, but they were streams. We found bugs in them and fish and all kinds of stuff. And so what we did, I guess if you go back to kind of like looks like CAD drawings, it shows you what we did, the work we did, where we basically took those deep ditches on each side of the stream of the easement here, put the stream in the middle. You can see a light blue line. We did a very sinuous, shallow channel, and we put little structures in it, which so there's some habitat in it. We plant a whole lot of different native wetland seeds, along with the hardwood species. In this case, the Hermanns wanted a crossing to be able to get across from this field to that field. So we built a real nice crossing that has pipes underneath, put gravel on it. We really try to work with the landowner to, basically we don't want to, they're giving up some of their land to do this. We are paying them, but we also don't want to inhibit them to continue to use the rest of their farm. So I feel like we work pretty good with you and all that stuff, kind of getting everything organized. And then, the rest of this, you can just see where if you look at that, the color picture, you can kind of see what it used to look like and what we did, came back and did. And there's no cost to the landowner whatsoever. We pay for the surveying, all the construction work, all the trees, we pay for everything. And I know Kent's involved in the NRCS and all that, and this was not an NRCS project, but this is something very similar to what they're in the same boat as we are doing projects like this, and seeing land go back into stuff like this. And this is just one way that that you can do these projects to restore, make a little money, and that's kind of what we do. If y'all want to walk, we'll walk out on the crossing, and you can kind of look in there and see some of the stuff we did.
After a scenic drive through the townships of Ellendale and Sugarloaf, the group arrived at Dill Apple Orchard, owned by Lindsay and Alan Dill and family. Started in 1939, this third-generation fruit farm and roadside farm market now produces over 100 acres of fruit each year. Several varieties of apples are grown, along with peaches, nectarines, and Asian pears. To minimize erosion on steep orchard mountainsides, natural vegetation is left between rows of trees. The Dill's operation is USDA Good Agricultural Practice certified and participates in the Farm to School lunch program.
In 1939, my dad bought a case of dynamite. Planted the whole side of this mountain up here across the highway in behind Sugarloaf Apple House, 15 acres. The timber was cut off, burnt off, and it left it full of stumps. Started planting apple trees, and if an apple tree needed to go where there's a stump, we put a half a stick of dynamite on it, blow it out of the ground, plant his tree. He had a half a stick of dynamite left over when he got done planting his orchard, and said he put it on top of a stump and shot it. So don't you know that rattles some windows. We're glad that everybody's here today. We can answer questions. Alan knows the answer to all of them. So
maybe half
rattling wheels. Yeah. We have expanded our packing house this year. We had a mechanical dump. Certain varieties of apples did not like that too well. We got some bruising from that. So we decided to come in the back of the building. The old grader was up the wall of this building. We came back here and gutted the whole back of this thing. We put metal all the way around it. And we'll look at the grader, if you wish, a little later, but we put in a stainless steel dump. We actually sink the whole bin, and the apples float out, and that way it doesn't bruise them. Golden Delicious, Pink Lady, those two varieties especially, were very thin-skinned and were easy to bruise. And that eliminated that. And then we put in a weight sizer here. The apples come down on the cups, and every apple is weighed individually. And then we can divide the sizes on the return flow belt. This is a major upgrade for us, but we're still in the old ages when it comes to apple graders. Out west in Washington State, they've got graders out there. It's computerized from one end to the other. They've got water flumes, color sorters, and multi-million-dollar grading machines and packing houses.
But this works for us.
That's right.
This works for us. This is, it allows us to, a machine like this we can run with 3 or 4 people and maybe grade some bags for the store that y'all were just in, if we just need to do some small runs. But then if we're doing some wholesale accounts, like to Whole Foods or Walmart or some of our larger accounts, then we can put more people on the line, turn the speeds up, and we're able to do larger volumes more quickly than we did before. So it's working out pretty good for us so far on the packing end of the deal. Sort of tell you what we grow. We're at around, and I'm sure I won't get this exactly right to work out to 100 acres, but we're about 70 acres of apples and around 30 acres of peaches now, and our Asian pear acreage is slowly working its way up a little bit. We're around 3 acres with a couple acres in the ground that's growing every year. I wanted to have enough Asian pears to make a little bit of money, but not to bet the whole farm on, because they're bad to get fire blight and some problems in the spring that can sort of wipe out your whole orchard. And we're not going to bet the whole farm on those, I don't think, right now.
What's your harvest season? When's your first harvest?
On apples?
Anything.
On anything? Well,
On your farm.
we picked the first peaches this year on the 21st of May. That's a little bit early. Everything was a little bit early this year, you know, Bill. We had such a crazy winter and spring and summer and everything else. But normally about the 1st of June we'll get started with some of our earliest peaches. And then by about the 1st of July we're really getting into commercial quantities of peaches. And by the very end of July we'll start picking ginger gold apples, which is our first apple. And then galas, red delicious, goldens, it just moves right on from there. But it's about 5.5 months of harvest, the whole thing.
You grow any honey, Chris?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to laugh.
Yeah, that's.
Let me say this before he comments. One of the American Fruit Grower magazine came out with an article on Honeycrisp, and the writer in that article said it was the apple from hell. Then I'll turn it back over to him, and he'll explain why.
If you're eating that apple, that is a wonderful apple. That is hard to beat. That is really, really, really a good apple. If you're trying to make money off that apple, and it's a whole different ball of wax. It was developed by the University of Minnesota, and they used, I can't remember the exact parentage, but they used apples that were well adapted to northern climates as the parentage for that apple whenever they did their crossbreeding and everything. And it just likes cool weather. It's cold tolerant in the wintertime, it likes cool summers, and it likes everything that North Carolina doesn't have, basically. Real high calcium contents in the soil, And, you know, there's no calcium in the soil.
We sprayed calcium every spray, put calcium on the ground, and it's still everything you can imagine will happen to it. It's a big apple, it's thin skinned, it'll get little spider webbing cracking in it, and that increases the chance of rot.
But it tastes really good. It really does.
We've got
300
trees, and that's surely all we want.
Yeah, I believe he stopped me at 300.
Can you speak towards your farm to school participation?
Yeah, the farm to school program's really been a big help for us. We're moving, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's several thousand cases a season now through the farm to school program. That's the NCDA marketing wing, or marketing division, I think, sponsors that. But it's, you know, it helps get some of our smaller sized apples directly into the school system, and somewhat cutting out the middleman. I know there's some cost involved in getting it from here to the school, but and I know it's not just apples. You know, the strawberry people are participating, and cabbage, Lenny, I think. I know the strawberries and sweet potato people are definitely participants. We do one round of peaches and several rounds of apples through the season, and that's been a big help. That's been a real big help.
A lot of flat land, people put wind machines in. Very expensive to put in wind machines, and because of frost, if it gets down to freezing temperature, wind machines won't help you, but for frost it certainly will. But here, I like what Alan said one day. He said we use mountains. So, and of a night, cold settles right down here in this valley. These slopes, that's the reason all the people in the brushy mountains always planted orchards on these mountain slopes. In the spring of the year, your frost would be down here, and they'd have a crop up on these mountain slopes.
On a cold night, you'll have at least 7, 8 degrees warmer temperature halfway up one of these slopes than you will down in the lowest spots. And if we have a good frost in the spring, sometimes you can tell just about where that frost line was, because you won't have any apples below that sometimes, you know.
Back when my dad started out, a lot of people didn't have jobs. As a little boy, I can remember all that. There was a D.E. Davis had an orchard in the head of this valley up here, and I remember going as a little boy in my dad's pickup to go buy apples, and the pickups were lined up to back up to the porch to buy apples. People didn't have jobs, folks. They'd buy apples, and they went to Kannapolis, they went to Charlotte, they went where these big mills were, and that's how they was feeding their families. And there was over 200 orchards in Wilkes and Alexander County back in that day. And I can count every one of them on two hands right now.
I think back at that time, people that lived in land that was really too steep to farm any other way were using apples as a cash crop. And then whenever you get off further down into the Piedmont, you know, the lower parts of Alexander County and on over into Iredell and the other parts of North Carolina, people were using cotton and tobacco and, you know, things that they could plant on that type of terrain. But, you know, once you get into this area, you really couldn't do that. People would use 2 or 3 or 4 acres of apples as a cash crop, and it's just down to just a few folks, a few crazy people.
Well, Alan and myself, and Jim Land, and Gary Morrell, and Lynn St. Clair,
Ty Lowe, Bobby.
Bobby.
Just a handful.
And there's only 2 left up on top of the brushes. Everybody else is retired, and there's only 2 guys growing up on the very top. And there used to be dozens of growers up there. So we're Like Bill said a minute ago, we're a dwindling bunch.
A dying breed.
Yeah.
The next stop on the tour was Morning Dew Farms, owned and operated by Vincent and Mary Ann Eisenhower and family. Specializing in cover crops, this farm family cultivates approximately 700 acres of squash, small grains, corn, and soybeans in a seasonal no-till rotation. To reduce erosion and crop loss, 4 grassed waterways have been designed and strategically placed in low-lying areas. A grass waterway also slows stormwater runoff from the family's poultry houses.
We grow row crops, great hazardous chicken houses, we grow specialty crops.
Elaborate on that there.
The specialty crops,
Yeah, just what you grow.
what we grow? We grow corn for grain, wheat, barley for grain, soybeans for grain. We grow squash and zucchini and snap beans and bell peppers and eggplant and jalapenos, and we market those in Hickory and Hendersonville.
How was the corn crop this year?
It varies depending on where you are. Back here it looks pretty good. We also farm in Catawba County. We're hoping for 90 bushels an acre here. We're going to be doing good to get 40 in Catawba County. On 16, 3 miles down the road, it looks like it might make 90. It's just where the rain is. And we had spotty showers on Ticktown Road. We farm patches here, there, and yonder. We might get a shower. They got more rain back here than we ever thought about getting in there. So it's been tough. We went 5 weeks at home without a shower. And when corn's pollinating, it doesn't wait on rain. Does it, Bill? You gotta have it. And it's gotta be 85 to 90 degrees instead of 102.
What kind of chickens you got?
Dyson broiler chickens.
How many, Ray?
25,300 each house.
You got
6
6 houses?
Yeah.
150,000.
We sell 5 flocks a year on average. You might get lucky and sell 6 one year.
Are the houses sort of staggered, or are they all about the
They all
same?
come in at the same, all leave.
How long do you have?
7 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks. They come get them when they want them back. Pretty much.
But they're fairly new houses.
Yeah. No, he wants to be a celebrity.
We ought to be admired, I'll tell you that. Thank you. Alexander County citizens, thank you.
Well, we hope they
Yeah.
appreciate
They
what
do.
agribusiness does for this county.
It is the business of this county.
You want to mention how much, there's so much fluctuation in the price of nitrogen per pound, how so much litter allows you to, it still costs you money, how it complements the farm with having organic source of fertilizer to utilize on
It just cuts money off the operating expenses. Probably half. I'd say. But you got to buy a truck, run in. So they don't run cheap.
That's what I'm saying, it's to the complement.
I never put a pencil to it, I can tell you. It's a lot cheaper.
Other than just being stinky.
Right.
Yes, it serves its purpose.
Just sort of trying to think about land use change with commercial agriculture. I mean, this is what it is, chicken house and commercial agriculture. Whereas this at one time was just, whole crop field. And so then you introduce 6 new chicken houses, so you have some stormwater coming off of that. And so when you have this land use change, you have all this extra water, you got to pipe it and it goes somewhere. So for the most part, everything's stable. But we did come and do some work with Ray's father, Vincent, and luckily Ray and Ben used to have grading contractor business. They still have equipment, so we were able to come in here and offer some surveying assistance and some engineering assistance for the waterways, where this one in particular, where you're getting this extra stormwater, it's starting to have some erosion in the end of it. The first part looks pretty good. You're getting a lot higher velocity water by the time it gets down this hill than you once did. So that's just one of the things our office tries to do. We installed 2, and the picture's still on the back. We installed 2 with them over on the property over there earlier this year. And they so far have worked out really well. And just glad we could do that. But that's just some of the things our office offers, NRCS and soil and water. And you know, as a group, we're one big family as far as extension service, NRCS and soil and water. Maybe where one of us doesn't have expertise, the other one does. So we try to blend everything together and hopefully offer, because I mean our clients are the farmers, and we try to offer them the best we can. So.